Boy, do we have a battle today. I tell you, Rode has been leading the industry since 2015. They came out with that Rode Videomicro, tiny little thing. In my opinion, that sounds better than their Pro Plus. The Pro Plus is too bassy, muffled sounding. The Rode Micro also has the advantage of it doesn't even need a battery, so it's just always working. It powers itself off your own camera. It leeches like a parasite. So now we finally have two contenders. You're listening to one of them, the Sennheiser MKE 200. And we also got the Deity D4 Duo, which can record from front and back. So we'll compare them all. Who's the champion of 2015? Can we finally supplant Rode Micro as the best mic for YouTube scrubs? We'll test it out here, see if it can reject traffic noise, which one's the best, and at home, if you want to boom it, right up here, hidden, right there, what's the better studio mic? Let's find out.
All I want is the perfect camera. All I want is the perfect camera.
So each of these mics has their pros and cons, so we'll finally dissect it by the end of the video, which is the best mic to buy for your situation. But right now you're listening to the Sennheiser MKE 200. It's tiny, it's the smallest of the bunch. The Rode Videomicro weighs 82 grams. The Deity D4 Duo, 80, 2 grams less. Sennheiser comes in at a little 70 grammer. It's the lightest of the bunch and it's the most compact of the bunch. If you look at them all side by side on different cameras, you can see that the Rode is the fattest. It has the fattest wind muff. The Deity is the longest, but skinnier, and slightly lighter. And then you got the Sennheiser, which is the shortest, and just it has the smallest footprint when you have the wind muff on. Comparing them all, if you look at them naked, the Rode and the Deity are very similar shaped and sized. They have the same shock mount type design, which we'll get to. It's actually quite a major flaw on the Sennheiser, but there's a workaround. And the Sennheiser mic itself is fatter, but shorter. Depends what you like, girth or length. So we got a good test here. I'm right by a highway, which is very even. Whenever I try to do this on a regular street, it's so sporadic. You'll get a motorcycle, like you never know. It's a bad comparison, whereas this is very even sound. Terrible even sound of traffic. The motorcycle just ruined my life. Okay, so we're at the highway for the highway test. We're on the Fuji X-T4 with the kit lens. Fuji doesn't have the best preamps on earth, but whatever. They're good enough. So you're listening to the Sennheiser, and thank you, Camera Canada. They hooked me up with Sennheiser, and I've been playing with this thing for a month. So thank you both, Sennheiser and Camera Canada. They sent it to me for review, for free, but I'm just going to tell you what's wrong with it and what's good with it. I don't have to say anything. So you're listening to the Senn. Let's switch to the Rode Micro and see if it rejects the highway life. Okay, so now we're on the road. Is there less traffic noise, and does my voice sound better? There's mosquitoes. I'm standing still for the test. Oh, this was a terrible idea. Why do I come out in nature? It's a lot bigger looking, and each of these mics has their pros and cons, which I'll list later on. So here's the Rode. Let's switch to the Deity, which has a trick up its sleeve. It's not fair. Okay, now we're on the Deity D4 Duo, which can record behind. It could record the highway if you preferred, but I'm just using the left side audio, which is the front facing one. So who has rejected the highway best so far? Can you even hear a difference? You probably can't even. This is a dumb test. Oh, I knew it. But it is important. If you have a shotgun mic, you're wanting to shotgun the sound from your mouth to the mic and reject everything else, so then it's decent audio. Every little vlog action cam has stereo mics that are picking up everything. The camera's audio, that's stereo, that's bullshit. But the Deity has a little trick up its sleeve. We can record from behind. So now I've switched to the rear mic, and there you can now see the highway and the dogs that want to visit the cars. Wow, that's amazing. I find this audio sounds so much better. I think just because I'm so much closer to the mic, although I'm curious if we boom it, maybe the rear mic is better. The only problem with this approach is it's a lot more editing. You gotta split the files after and choose, oh yeah, I was talking in the rear for that segment, and switch. It's annoying, but best results ever if you plan on switching back and forth. Now if you're curious, this is what the Rode Micro sounds like from behind, and it's very muffled and it's picking up everything around you. It's not good. And here's the Sennheiser from the back. I mean, I imagine it sounds very similar to the Rode, but maybe it's better? Is it better or worse? Does it really matter? You probably just shouldn't be doing this. Don't do it. Okay, before I go home and test all these in the studio, I want to talk about the pros and cons of each mic, because they all have their advantages. So, the Sennheiser, in my opinion, sounds the best. And it has the best wind muff. It's quite windy right now. Not quite windy, but there is some wind. I never notice wind noise on this, whereas the Rode Micro, I'll notice sometimes. It gets you. And the Deity is the worst in that area. We'll get to that when I switch to the Deity. Smallest package, best wind muff, best sound. Like, it's the best one. It's the most expensive, I think, by $10. $99 for that. Deity is $89. Rode Micro $59. The Sennheiser is also the coolest looking one. It's the only one with a black wind muff. That's kind of cool. And the Sennheiser blue cord, I could take or lose that one. I kind of like the Deity's yellow. So you lose in cord color, Sennheiser. That's your fault. Also, one of its major advantages is its worst flaw, is the shock mount. So on the Rode Micro and the Deity, they have the same Rycote system where it's like hanging in a pool of jello. It's nice, it works. You don't really hear handling noise. But it's wobbly, unless you, which I often do, forget to tuck the cord in on the Rode Micro. That holds it in place a bit, but I don't really like that system, whereas this is just solid. It has an internal shock mount, which now we will get to its only flaw of this mic, is the handling noise. You can hear it. Now you can get away with this by just holding it solid, and you're walking around, you're fine. But whenever I switch hands, okay, take a little break there. You hear all that noise, but obviously I can cut that out. So this internal shock mount, it's not as effective as the Rode, although I haven't tested that in a while. We'll test it and see if we can hear it doing the same things. So now we're on the Rode Micro, and to be fair, this is the cheapest and the oldest. 2015 this was released. Like, we're all waiting, Rode, for you to release an update for this. That'd be so good. Is there handling noise? I never really noticed it when I'm filming, so I don't think there is. That shock mount's really effective. So the flaws to the Rode Micro, when it's windy, I notice this thing, it picks it up. So it's not foolproof, you can't fully trust it. I only trust the lav mic and that Sennheiser now. So it's a little windy, about the same amount of wind. It's not much though, so you probably don't hear it, but when it starts gusting, you really do hear it on this. So the second flaw is just the audio quality is not the best. It is a little cheap sounding, but you can EQ it and get it to sound the way you want. I'll try it at home. We'll do no EQ and then boost it a bit in the bass area to get that radio voice. I don't like it when it's too bassy though. It's hard to hear people. I go for clarity. It's like, I get some complaints sometimes. People are like, oh, what's up with the audio today? It's like, it was perfectly clear and beautiful. It's like, oh, I just want bass radio voice. Sing me to sleep. Still, it's the cheapest mic. It's not the lightest anymore though. Deity time. Alright, we're on the Deity, and I forgot to mention the Rode has a plastic hot shoe mount. I think the Deity does too, but the Rode feels cheaper. And I think the Sennheiser is metal. Don't quote me on that. Yeah, it's metal. And so is the ring that you tighten it with. Better build quality for sure on the Senny. Now let's just test the handling noise on the Deity. Are you hearing any of that? It's just the notion of switching hands. And if you ever, sometimes I do that during the video. Are you hearing the wind? Yeah. That's the major flaw of this mic. Its wind muff is shit. This is the biggest flaw of the Deity mic, is their wind muff is the worst of the bunch. It just, even though it's tucked, I got it fully in there, tucked all the way to the back. There's no seal. The Rode has a rib, and then it latches onto it. It'll never come off, and it creates a seal. No wind is getting through the back, at least. Still, it's not that effective. But this one is just, I hear it all the time. Like, I can't even really use this thing. I tried it for a video the other day. It was the video about the Panasonic S5, and I used this mic, and I noticed quite a bit of wind noise, and it wasn't even that windy out. So that is the biggest down flaw. That's a new word. But it has the best option ever, where you can film streetcars from the back and talk about it in a beautiful, clear fashion. It's so clear. None of the other two mics even come close to that. So if that's your thing behind the camera, that's the best. Or if you're interviewing somebody and you're behind, oh man, for sure. But the wind, you need a new wind muff. Like, I don't think Deity cares. I might even prefer this sound to the Sennheiser. Like, Deity makes such good mics, and then they put no afterthought into the wind muff at all. That Deity D4 Pro, amazing mic. It needed a battery, but it sounded so good. They didn't even come with a wind muff. And then you had to get a third-party one. So there's that, and then now they're sending one with the mic, but it's not good. So they need to research wind, make a tunnel or something. And the biggest downside to this mic is the workflow, because you have two tracks, front and back. So you can just make everything front, and then when it comes time to get your backside, then you switch it. Depending on how often you do that, it's a pain in the butt, but it gives you the best results. And I don't think there's a better system out there. Even if you turned the mic, it wouldn't be right. But even the slightest breeze could ruin your life. So we need a third-party wind muff, something to engulf the whole thing, although then you wouldn't be able to switch the thing on and off. So I don't know how you're gonna do that one. It's just a bad design. So let's go to the studio and see which is the actual best sounding mic in controlled situations. Alrighty, we're back at home. We got the Sennheiser boomed up here. How's this sounding now? Oh, it's so close. I almost had a problem here because the plug is right by this little short stubby piece of shit. It's right there. So if you have a straight plug, the plug will actually come below where the mic is. So if you're trying to get that as close as possible to your voice, I'm telling you. And this cord, can you see it? They wouldn't have known. Hopefully the Viltrox behaved while I was doing all that stuff. Of course it did. It would never falter. It's the best lens ever made. So, how does this sound? We'll switch to the Rode, and then we'll do both the front and the back of the Deity to see who does the spirit mic best. Studio mic. So we're at minus 12 dB in camera. We'll see if I have to change it for any of the other mics, because if I do and I have to lower it, technically that's good. Lowered preamps in camera means cleaner sounding mic. So Sennheiser, drink it in. Here's the Senny boy. Let's switch to the Rode. Alright, we're on the Rode Micro now, and I did have to boost the gain a little, so we're at minus 9 dB now. So technically this is more sensitive, and that should be a good thing, because we can lower the preamps, we should be better off. And just if you were curious, I could plug this regular standard cable into this locking connector Sennheiser freak cable. I tell you, that's the one thing I hate about Sennheiser. They keep making these locking connectors, so when I use my lav mic, it just won't plug into the camera straight up. It has that connector, so I had to buy an L-shaped one. So how does the Rode sound compared to the Sennheiser? I should have had a phrase that I repeated, but it's boring when I hear other people do that. So I'll just switch back. I almost had a problem here because the plug is right by this little short stubby piece of shit. And back on the Rode now, so let's switch to the front-facing Deity mic and see if that's better than this or this little stubby boy. Look how tiny that thing is. That's a microphone. Wow. Alright, we're on the Deity mic now. We're on the same minus 9 that the Rode needed, but Sennheiser could go all the way down to minus 12. So Sennheiser should win in the sensitivity category, meaning there should be less background noise. I can't guarantee it. But we're on the front-facing mic, and I am very curious to see when we flip it around. Is it better? Because it sounds so much better outside. But I doubt it will be better in here. It's just the distance. Now that we're the same exact distance, it should be worse. It's a smaller mic. Big on one end, tiny in the rear. I've been told that. So drink in the Deity sound that you're hearing right now. I'll put on a little Rode Micro and then Sennheiser and then back to me. How does the Rode sound compared to the Sennheiser? I should have had a phrase that I repeated, but it's boring when I hear other people do that. So I'll just switch back. I almost had a problem here because the plug is right by this little short stubby piece of shit. And back to the Deity. So we're still on the front facing one. Did you hear any difference? Because you can EQ the difference. If one is like a little more bassy, you can raise the bass. Like, that's not what we're testing here. It's just the clarity, the dynamic range. I don't even know if that's a thing in mics. Trust me, I'm qualified to be doing this. I could be qualified. I know what I'm doing. Let's switch to the back mic now. Okay, now we're on the Deity's rear-facing mic, and I had to raise it again, so now we're at -6 dB. So definitely the back one is quieter, and that's genius. It's a genius move because they know the vloggers, you're going to be like 2.5 feet from the front-facing mic, and then when you film from behind, you're right there. So they made it quieter. Like, they thought of everything. Really, it's a genius design. Too bad the wind muff ruins our life. But this is what the back capsule sounds like. Same distance from the front. Let's switch to the front. Trust me, I'm qualified to be doing this. I could be qualified. I know what I'm doing. Let's switch to the back mic now. And now we're back on the rear mic, so I doubt that this sounds better. It's an optical illusion outside because you're closer to the mic, and that's why it sounds better, but you never know. I had to test it. So I'm going to listen to all this in headphones. Sennheiser headphones, by the way. Well, I'm not a Sennheiser fanboy. Why are you saying that? I would never accept free gifts. You can trust me. This is a valid review. I would never be persuaded to one side or the other. I find the truth here. I can't be bought. No way can I. What is this? They did send me a free shirt. I'm not going to lie to you. It's there. Thank you, by the way. Thank you. I like it. So I'm going to listen, and then I'll film the outro on the mic I choose as the winner. Okay, so I've listened to everything. It's funny how close they are. Like, unless you have professional studio monitors, you probably can't even tell the difference between the sounds. The noise floor is very similar. So there's just a couple differences. So we're on the winner right now. Can you even tell which one I picked? I'm going to do a little EQ. So now, this is how I would want the mic to sound. I just add a little bass, maybe take out some, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Don't look at me as the expert. I just listen. I am a musician though. I have a musician's ear. It's more accurate than any scientific tool. So I made a couple notes. We'll just wrap this up quick. Sorry the video's so long. So basically, they all sound almost identical. The Rode has a little more bass than the Sennheiser. The Deity sounds close to the Sennheiser. I would pick the Deity if it had a better wind muff because you get the back mic that was superior. But the wind muff let them down. The cheapest part of the mic. It's like my mom said the other day, a parent is only as happy as their saddest kid. And that's what this is. Your mic's only as good as your cheapest part. If your mount breaks or the wind muff sucks. So, just develop that further, Deity, for your next one, and you're onto something. What surprised me was how good the Sennheiser sounded from behind. It wasn't as good as the Deity, but much better than the Rode, so you can pretty much get away with talking behind the mic without all the editing problems of the Deity. You don't have to switch files and all this stuff. You just go for it. And it sounded pretty good, so winner, Sennheiser. I just prefer the sound. It's the smallest mic. It happens to be the most expensive, but it's not much. $100. That's 5,000 Canadian. That's gonna set me back a couple months' rent. If you're just vlogging, talking to the camera, the Rode is still good enough. It's still fine unless you want to flip from behind. That's where it suffers. It was the worst of the bunch. So I think it's finally been surpassed. The Sennheiser is the superior mic, and the handling noise wasn't as bad as I thought. They all had it. They all had it a little bit. It just stood out because I never heard that before. It could be the tripod, the Nebula. That might be its downfall. It transfers noise more than the Siriu. Oh, it's out of the shot. Honestly though, I'm very happy with this mic. I don't think there's anything I'd change. It's just kind of awkward to fiddle around with the parts, but once you're attached and you just leave it on your camera, it's fine. It's great. It's lightest, smallest, best sounding, from behind, almost as good as the Deity. Not quite. So, what do you think? Let me know down below your favorite mic. Affiliate links for all three of them, of course. Wow. Thank you Sennheiser and Camera Canada for hooking me up early. It's my first thing I've been in on the secret early. It's kind of fun. Thanks for buying a Camera Conspiracies t-shirt. This is the Viltrox autofocus system of life. Tracks us. They can't hear you. subscribe for more videos. See you later.